Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian. We're really excited about this episode. It's with Tamira Jenlink, the race director of the Leadville Race Series. She shares her time with us and breaks down the new changes to this year's 2024 Leadville 100 for crew and spectators and racers. We go step by step through each process, but I'm recording this intro on top of the intro you'll get in a second, just for the main reason that we talk a lot about a fire in Twin Lakes at the time of the recording of the episode. This past week was July 4th, and I spent a week up in Leadville, off-grid camping with my family and enjoying the trails and the 14ers around the Leadville area. And the fire is out, everything's safe and sound. But just a word to the wise is know what you're getting into. There are some risks and dangers with the high country, no matter what time of year it is. And so just be aware of those things. Again, we talk a lot about a current fire in this episode, but that fire has been distinguished to 100%. There is no more fire risk from that particular fire. There's always fire risk in the high country, though, unfortunately, in Colorado. Thanks for tuning in. This is a great episode you guys could share with some crew, your pacers, some onlookers. It's going to be really insightful. It goes right along with the racer manual. We hope that you could share it with your crews and your pacers and your families, as well as get some information out of it for yourself as a racer. Simon is in Quebec and unable to record at the time that I'm recording this. He's hopefully crushing the Quebec Mega Trail, 100 miler up in his hometown of Quebec, Canada. Best of luck, Simon. Welcome back to another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian, an ultra running conversation. How are you doing this afternoon, Simon?
I'm doing great. I don't know when this episode will come out, so either I'm just outside of a race or I'm about to race. I could say something generic about it, but it's exciting time right now because it's summertime and summertime is mountain time. And actually very much looking forward to be in Colorado and to see you in person, maybe go hiking, but definitely go racing together. But how about you? How are your knees?
My knees are well. I'm preparing for my next event, which will be a few weeks away still for me. I know you have a few, quite a few between here and there for yourself, but my next race is actually the Leadville Trail 100, which brings us to today's guest.
Yeah, and I think I'm very excited to be talking about Leadville. Leadville for me has been a special race. It's been a race that ever since I started trail running, that was one of my kind of goal race. And when you're there, the race itself is very special with, the big event and everyone around there. But I think it's the community that in the end made a huge difference. And I mean, needless to say, that's where we met. And now, we have a podcast together. We have our group of friends. So Leadville is very special to my heart. And it's been interesting, even for someone like me that doesn't have the experience that you've had with Leadville, to see things that are changing a little bit in the event evolve. But you've had it. You've been there for more than 10 years, I think, right?
I first showed up in Leadville in 2010 to race the 100 and the 50 and a couple other. I think that's all I raced that year. But I've been in there in some capacity and every year since. So we're talking about 15 years right now. And our other previous guest, Mark, as well, has been there in all those years as well, in some sort of capacity as well. So, yeah, we have a love of Leadville, all things Leadville. I have seen it turn over from being the mom and pop shop with Ken and Mara Lee to Lifetime. And now our most recent race director is Tamira Jenlink. And we're really excited to talk with her today about the current state of Leadville, the Leadville 100 run, the race across the sky, and some of the changes and why they're implementing these changes, why there's a need for it, quite honestly, and what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interesting discussion because when you race a race or when you just look at a movie, you don't really see everything that goes behind it and kind of the impact that is broader than just, well, people are on a trail and running. And running a big event like that is extremely complex. There's hundreds, if not thousands of people volunteering, and local community like Twin Lakes, which are a very, very small place, will be impacted by that, both positive, but also there will be disruption. And for the race organization to be able to grow the event, but at the same time manage the impact. It's interesting to have this discussion with Tamira and trying to maintain a quality race. But at the same time, to maintain this, you need to keep the permit, and you need to have community agree that the race goes through there. So very interesting discussion with Tamira.
The race has just seen enormous growth and huge popularity, and of course that helps the race sell out. It's obviously a lottery at this point now, but with that comes some changes, some needed changes to kind of keep these communities safe and keep the participants and the spectators. Twin Lakes in the past has been just a whirlwind of screaming fans. It reminds me of like the Tour de France style mountain climbs where the fans are screaming at you as you're running down the road or up the road, depending on which way you're going. So it's really going to be a great conversation. I'm sure it'll be really helpful for anyone participating or spectating this year at 2024 Leadville 100. I think it's going to be some well-needed changes that need to happen, unfortunately, due to the size of the growth of the sport and the lure of Leadville itself. So without further ado, we welcome Tamira Jenlink. Hi, Tamara. Thanks for coming on the show this afternoon. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on the show.
We're doing well. Finally get some nice weather up there in Leadville, it sounds like. And there's some relief from the smoke, I believe, too. I believe I saw it was 86% contained at recording.
We are getting there. We are very appreciative of the weather's sort of an interesting component at the moment. Of course, yesterday was a red flag warning on the backside of this fire. So it's been a little bit up and down with the wind, and that has certainly precluded it being a faster containment. But our resources are doing an amazing job, and we are so appreciative of everybody out there. And on the flip side, it is helping melt out an enormous amount of snow from this winter. We had record levels of snow that we were not seeing melt out the way that we're used to. So that part's been helpful on that side.
Great. Tamara, can we talk about your involvement with the Leadville 100? I believe that you're a biker, and maybe that's the roots for yourself. But briefly, if you want to just give us a little bit of history of how you got to be the race director.
That's a great question, Brian. So yes, a racer first. Mostly focused on the 50 mountain bike, the stage race, and the 100 mountain bike. So a number of times in all of those events. So been here, then volunteering and being a part of that, being a guide / coach with camp, being involved at those levels. And really, it was just timing. You know, it happened to be, I was ready for a change in my world and started to have some conversations as there was transition happening, and had a huge vested interest in sort of the relationship between the events and the community, and how we could continue to grow that in a positive way, and recognizing that bringing these type of events into small towns, small rural mountain towns particularly, can have a significant impact that doesn't necessarily directly benefit everybody. So was both bringing my own race experience and some race organization experience, as well as firefighting and other guiding outdoor rec pieces of my life, along with this sort of idea around how can we further and grow this in a positive way, and continue to take the vision and namesake of Ken and Mary Lee and the ideas behind economic impact and economic drivers, and cultivate that continued in a positive way. There's certainly significant impact when you start to increase the numbers at the start line and all the crews and all the spectators. And it's fantastic to see all the folks here. And then how do we juggle all that? So that was sort of where my conversation started. And then somehow they decided I was the right person for the job. So here I am 5 years later.
Well, welcome. We're appreciative. I've been around for 5 years, all of your tenure so far, and we appreciate all you do for sure. We wanted to dive into a little bit of that growth and the impact that it has and the needed changes in 2024. And I know you kind of just briefly touched on it just now, But can you get a little more specific, maybe specifically about Twin Lakes, the need for change there before we talk about each section of the course specifically?
Sure, sure. So, this is something I've been watching since I came in a few days before the stage race in 21. And we are, we're sold out. Every event is sold out. We went from, in 1982, one event with 45 people on the start line to 7 weekends of sold out events, across the summer. And bringing in a number of humans who are spending the night and hanging out and putting dollars into Lake County, which is amazing. And also, more importantly, or equally important, out there challenging themselves and breaking records in their own minds of things they didn't know they could do, all those parts and pieces. But along with that, in a small town with one through road, you have significant impact, both in Leadville and in Twin Lakes, both as part of Lake County. And really looking at overall, the big push here has been around safety, athlete experience and safety, and being able to get our EMS services in and out safely, law enforcement in and out safely. If we had a dire need and emergency, last year would have been a struggle to get people in and out of there in an efficient manner, and it's continued to grow that way. And so this has been a culmination of conversation across multiple agencies alongside of Lifetime and the race series itself, where we really dove into, we want to keep the races, we want to keep these pieces moving, but how do we do this in a way that keeps everybody safe and guarantees that we can get emergency services in and out? And then we're also seeing impacts all the way to Aspen. So folks who are trying to come over who have no idea there's an event, if we get out of our little bubble of event world, there's this whole other world that's trying to experience what we have in our backyard here, and they're driving into something without any knowledge or awareness. And so, even looking at Pitkin County and how we can support and have signage and decrease the overall congestion to ensure that the public has the best experience as well, that there's not just this singular focus around the events. So that's kind of the high level, where we really saw the big need and big push. And the congestion is just overall too much for a small town to handle. And so really having to get creative about how we can manage that and keep these races moving forward and alive and super well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think people that have not experienced any of the Leadville race, these are a big race now. If I compare to other trail running event, it's easily 3 to 4 times bigger, and sometimes a community that is much smaller than other races. So proportionally, it has a very, very big impact. And it's true, safety is a concern. I think for me, especially that I'm a bad mountain biker, I really want to know that safety can come and rescue me because I'm not very stable on 2 wheels. So people sometimes don't see, I think, the danger of these races, and that's your responsibility as a race director. Safety is one of the most important things. So you have to make these changes. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, what's going to culminate out of this, I hope, is also more clarity around how to crew well. I think crewing is super stressful, maybe even more stressful than running that day or riding that day, because our crews are trying to get from point A to point B, and they're getting caught in traffic and they can't get there, and they're missing their deadlines, and I think what we're attempting to do is not just take away from the experience, but actually give more structure to the experience so people can move about the course more fluidly, but also not be attempting, in the run, it's easier. It's a slower pace than the bike. The bike moves really fast, and we have folks who still to this day try to get from Outward Bound or Pipeline over to Twin Lakes and crew at both places, which has really never been possible. And I think just as we look at all of this, we can help create that structure that actually maybe decreases the overall stress for some of our crew members as well. They really work so hard to take care of their athletes on race day and before that. And so hopefully overall this increases the safety, but the athlete experience as well, and the crew experience, and, just the number of humans trying to get from point A to point B.
And for sure, an accident, it'd be hard for me to imagine that there's never been a crash in the mountain biking where a car hit someone. People are busy, people are looking everywhere, and that happens. You don't necessarily see that as a racer, but these things will happen, and you need to prevent that. You need to do everything to prevent that. One of the tips that I always give to people is to choose wisely which aid station they should be crewing, and if it's not needed, just skip it. It's not because your crew can be there, that your crew should be there. If there's nothing significant they're going to do except fill your water, just go have coffee in town instead of kind of clogging the road. I'll be fine. I can fill my bottle of water. But I think people get very nervous also because they've trained for maybe a year or two to get there. So they want to get as much support as possible, and maybe some guidance as to what is actually helpful will benefit everyone.
100%, Simon. And so many people haven't done something like this before, or they've not done it here. And
Yeah.
this has its own set of, circumstances and topographical, environmental components that certainly give people cause for pause and even a little anxiety, wondering, well, how's that going to go? Up and over Hope Pass, over to Winfield. And certainly when we took pacers out, this increased the anxiety for a little bit, but I think it actually turned out to be a positive thing in many ways. We saw the runners talking to each other more than their pacers. We saw the safety overall increase, that we could get people out easier and quicker and more efficiently, and if we were to ever have a major incident up in Winfield and we had 300, 400, 500 people up there, we would be in a really tough situation. And, for me, I come into this with 10 years in the fire world and looking at some disaster and understanding what we can be up against. As we know right now, we have a fire occurring that is gracefully happening outside of one of these events where we have massive people stuck somewhere. But I've certainly been there and witnessed when we do have people stuck in some remote areas. And so bringing that lens of how do we avoid that? How do we, as you said, Simon, we haven't had that vehicle versus runner or biker on 82 yet, but let's not have it either. Let's stop that from being a potential, and let's keep everybody safe and make sure that everybody's experience, because that's not good on either side, whether you're the motorist or the biker or runner or whoever. So a lot of this is around understanding risk management and looking at it through the lens of, ultimately, let's take good care of all of our humans, public and event people, athletes and crews and all those folks as well.
I really liked your point about taking the pacer off of Hope Pass. And initially, I think change for all of us is kind of hard. And I've been around for a while, and I remember having my pacer on Hope Pass every year. And we didn't have that anymore a few years back. And we all survived, right? And actually, it was less congested, and the trail was a little more fun. And it wasn't 600 runners with a pacer each, being 1,200 participants crisscrossing paths. It was now just the runners passing each other. So it was a little more friendly, a little more open trail, and we all survived it, right? So we can move on. So I think that these changes might be a little bit of a struggle initially, but once we get through it, all of a sudden it'll become the new norm.
That's sort of, that's what I expect, is how can we take care of each other as we go through the change? And that is challenging. And to your point, we have to be looking at things through a global lens and not just a one or two person lens, and that speaks to the Hope Pass piece. Like, that is our backyard, and we need to be protecting our identity around outdoor rec and those resources that we have. And how can we all contribute and be a part? And to me, this is just an opportunity for the family component that Ken and Mara Lee have so strongly encouraged over, 41 years, that we all come together and together strive to make changes that are actually healthy and to the benefit of all. And I agree with you that in 2 years, 3 years, nobody will it won't be the thing that we're focused on. Right now, it's a little nerve-wracking because we're uncertain. We haven't done it yet. We haven't executed it. And frankly, it will be growth for all of us. I don't expect it to go 100% perfect, and I hope that we can all join in that idea of not pointing towards, well, that didn't work and that didn't work, but how do we continue to get this to a place where it does? I do hope that, we're going to be 90%, 95% of the way there, but there's always things that we can hopefully grow and learn from. So keeping that awareness that change comes with the ability to refine as we move forward. And our job is to notice what we can do better as we move forward as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And I think the unfortunate or difficult position a race like Leadville is in is that you're a very old race and a very big event. So the expectations are a little higher. I've definitely been in other race where, oh, well, they don't have water at the aid station anymore. Oh, well, shit happens. But you expect that Leadville will not do that. And when you make such a big change, like the Twin Lake change, I think we all know that there's going to be issues. It's unfortunate. People will be frustrated. People will wait longer than they were hoping for. There will be confusion. And we're trying to minimize that. And then the expectation is, well, you're such a big race, it should run smoothly. But the difficulty of organizing a big race is exponentially harder. And any change would be as if you would run the event for the first time this year. Like any changes, it's the first time we do that. How will people actually deal with, okay, like there's a shuttle system. How will they be thinking about time? Like when should I go there? And there will be congestion that maybe you didn't forecast. People will be late. They will miss their runner. So yeah, first year will be interesting.
First year will be interesting, and here shortly we'll put out, like we've been trying to get information out in chunks that we can all absorb. And we will be offering a 1 or 2 page little Bible shuttle, shuttle Bible / crewing shuttle or crewing Bible. Let's talk about the do's and don'ts. Like, don't try to be at Pipeline and Twin Lakes. Don't here, do this, and here's how you can execute this, and here's the time frames to really look at it. We know that, on mountain bike day from 6:30, 5 a.m., we're going to start the shows at 5 a.m. We know that it will be 5 a.m. until 10 a.m. will be it will be busy. And we will have the capacity to move 600, 700, 800 people at a time. And that's significant, but nobody's seen that play out yet. and we know that that's a lot of shuttles to move all those people. So we're still going to be moving along with the change itself and what the new changes create for us to figure out as well. But putting that information out and slowly trying to help people look at it through the lens of when are good times for us to go. If I know that my person is riding a 12-hour ride as opposed to an 8-hour ride, do I need to rush out to Twin Lakes? And how do we, again, join as part of the team in this collaboratively to produce a great experience and help everybody have the best experience possible? So to some degree, I'm calling on everyone out there to join us in this and participate in it. And it might mean that we have to take a pause and go, okay, do I have to be there right this second? Am I okay still? And on our end, the promise that we're working on is getting you where you need to be in a timely fashion. So yeah, lots of points we could dig into for hours, I'm sure, on all of it, but hopefully we'll continue to provide information that helps bring it down just a little bit of a notch for everybody who's trying to hold and have the best experience for their athlete.
That's really our goal today is, I would call myself a friend of Leadville, and we want to spread the information so that it runs a little smoother and give you that opportunity. I don't know if that's where you were going, Brian, but I know you know the change better than I do, and I think we should dig into them a little bit so that people are aware and can plan accordingly.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's not a lot of changes. There are some significant changes to this particular year, but I wanted to also maybe just start. I also know that you are the race director for the 100 bike, and that has its own different changes. But I think today we're just basically trying to focus on the 100 run weekend. And so we're looking at maybe we could go from the starting line to the finish line. Just a quick overview of it all. So 4 a.m., 6th and Harrison Avenue, downtown Leadville. How, as Simon and I are participants this year, we'll have probably some crew. I don't know about pacers. We're usually fairly thin, quite honestly, Simon and I. But in general, if I had a crew and pacer and myself, how do I get to the starting line, Tamira?
So as we started, this whole shuttle thing has been a little bit of a long-term plan and slowly integrating it in. And as we did the last few years, you will have shuttles running from the community fields, which is up by the rodeo grounds, from the high school, from the middle school, from parking, all on that side of town. And they will happily bring you right down to the start line. We can't park in that general area. There is no parking. And a reminder to all of our athletes and crews and families, that's all private residential area in there. And they are gracefully allowing us to shoot off a shotgun at 4 a.m., whatever we can do to be gracious on our side. And really, we can get in our heads sometimes if I've got to park here because this is an emergency and I've got to do this thing. And so it'll just be for a minute. And then the next thing you know, it's 2 hours. So if we can really utilize this system and park at the community fields, the high school, the middle school, there'll be parking staff up there. It's all posted on the website. It will continue to get updated and refined so that you will have the best access. But parking there, buses will bring you down, and buses then from there can bring you right back to your vehicle. And I know you want to take this systematically, Brian, so I don't want to jump too far, but let's park where we've been parking, and those pieces are available on the website, leadvilleraceseries.com. And if you go to the run page, you'll see everything there from shuttles and parking to event schedule, so you can find all those pieces.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually not a new piece. We've been doing that for a few years now. That morning shuttle from the community fields, which is the turf field about a mile down the road as well. So you could also park and walk it for a warm up for your 100-mile, Simon.
Yeah.
That is something that people do, and honestly, great for your body to just kind of get the circulation moving and not just go there, stand and be cold and then go when it's time to go and all out or whatever it is. We try to encourage people not to do that to begin with, but it is a good little warm up.
All right, let's move on to 13 miles down the road. We jump onto the lake trail. We head into May Queen, which we always refer to as May Queen outbound, right? Everything's going to be outbound on the first 50 miles or so. So May Queen outbound, it's 13 miles, a full service aid station that morning. No crew, I believe, at all that morning for the outbound section, correct?
That is correct, Brian. So that you'll have your drop bag. You'll be able to have your drop bag there for you at May Queen, and you'll have our amazing, like we will have Judy Ray Allen, who is one of our captains who's been out there for years running May Queen. And in addition, 25, 30 volunteers making sure that you get everything you need to get you on your way. So you can get your drop bag there and, your peanut butter and jelly, whatever additional snacks or drinks you might like. It will be a full service aid station, but no cruise at May Queen outbound in the morning is correct.
Excellent. It's cut and dry. I think it's pretty simple. It's always nice and lit. They're always super cheerful at all the aid stations, but I do like May Queen after 13 miles of running in the dark. I get to take the headlamp off. I get to stash it for the remainder of the day. We make our way up into Sugarloafin and down Powerline, around the paved road, past the fish hatchery, and into Outward Bound as the next aid station. And actually, I don't even know if I know the actual mileage of Outward Bound.
No limitations there. So essentially, you have the ability to have a car come in with however many crew you want to be at Outward Bound. You have the ability to park a car there also and pick up the shuttle. So this is going to be the big hub. And Outward Bound has been a part of the big party for a while. So that's nothing new and has been kind of a cornerstone of the whole event, moving through everything. And essentially, we're quoting that at mile 23.5.
Excellent.
For the outbound mileage, so 23.5. And what you can expect there then is, making sure I get back over here, you can expect to see a big crew, awesome humans out there, another fantastic leadership crew happening. And in addition, you will have full service everything. You will have your drop bags. You will have the ability for crews to be staged. What you will see is a distinction between the aid station and the crewing location. So expect that we're going to ask you to be a bit down from where the aid station is, to just have that separation for the folks who literally are using the aid station and not the crews, to give some distinction to that. And the people who are really looking for the crews, then they can go right into that crew zone, find their crews. We do encourage you to have some markers that make sense, that stand out for you and are unique and original to you and your family. Big, tall things, big, bright things, whatever it is, but something significant that you can easily identify, because there will be a huge amount of humans there, which we love. But you'll see that distinction, and you will see your drop bags will be close to the aid station if that's what you're looking for, and then the full service aid station. And then from there, behind that, I don't know if we want to get into this now, Brian, but essentially, as I was alluding to, this is our hub. So we've been parking out there, and we've had shuttle service previously. What you're going to see from race day morning is ability to park your car, grab the shuttle right from there over to Twin Lakes. Now, remember, we're not seeing anybody get out to Twin Lakes before 9 a.m. Like, there's just the reality of how long. This is a slower process than the mountain bike. So we don't need to be in a rush. And we can talk a little bit about what the community of Twin Lakes has also offered to help support this, which is Friday setup times. They're allowing everybody in at noon, which is 6 hours earlier than we've ever done before. You'll see our staff out there, and our staff will be out there from Thursday forward and able to help you get a spot, get set up on Friday, leave everything there. The local Bob at the general store, Misty over at Tenderfoot Farms, all these folks will have, you've got Shayna and the Roadhouse Coffee Inn. You've got a lot of options out there. Bob will have a ton of extra ice and water so that you'll be able to purchase ice the next day. So we're asking for people to leave their coolers and whatnot when they get out there. But this, going back to Outward Bound, becomes the hub. You park your car. You don't get stressed about how fast you need to get out there because you have a little bit of window of time. And we'll be running those shuttles from 5 a.m. Now, no crew limitations on Outward Bound. And in between Outward Bound, we can kind of bump into this. You've seen folks at Pipeline, which is a part of the mountain bike terminology. So Pipeline is just down the road a few miles, and then you have an aid station called Half Pipe. Sometimes these things get confused, and that is up the road a bit further. But essentially, if we go back, we've got Outward Bound at 23.5. Half Pipe then is at 29.3. So just keeping that in mind, you're not even 6 miles away to the next aid station. But let me double check with you, Brian. Are we feeling good about Outward Bound? Do you want me to talk about anything else there right this second?
No, it's a full service aid station where if you are crewless, pacerless, drop bags again. I'm almost positive of that. I see Tamira shaking her head yes. So I'm going to go with that. So just to kind of cover all the bases, if you do have a large crew, this is a great place to hang out for the rest of the day. Bring your lounge chairs. There's a huge open meadow. Bring some shade structures and watch the excitement both directions.
We'll have a campfire going there. It sounds like we'll have Chive Catering and Copper Gulch, their coffee trailer out there. Sounds like they're going to be cooking hot dogs too. So that'll be a new addition to the whole fun. But yeah, come out there and hang for the day. And as I mentioned, your drop bags will be close to the aid station, a little bit separate from the crew section. So just know that that's where my drop bag is going to be, as close to that aid station when I first come through into that area. And that sets us up for Outward Bound, which will be a fun party for everybody.
Outward Bound is 23.5. Somewhere between the two is Pipeline, which is there is not an aid station there, but there is crew access available. Typically, my wife in previous years will back up the car to the roadway and pop the tailgate, and I'll run by and fill up a bottle. I'll give her a hug and a kiss. Most of the time, it's a little less congested. I'm not sure about this year, though. I think there might be a little more congestion there because we're moving things around a little bit.
There may be, but yes, to your point, use it as a crewing alternative. If for any reason we know that we can park close to 1,600 cars in the Outward Bound area. So if that helps bring everything down a notch, we know we've got a lot of space. And then right down the road, what we have is Pipeline. A couple of miles down the road, we will run the shuttles from there. So if we end up having any issues with overflow and needing extra room for people to park, we'll just close up the lot and we'll move down there. I don't foresee that as an issue specifically with the run. We've got plenty of parking space there for everybody. And Pipeline, I think to your point, Brian, is a wonderful alternative. I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens with the flow of things. Do more people want to go over there because they don't want to be in that hubbub and they want to be, easily spottable, or what do they want? So I think it'll be a learning year around that for all of us. That's just a couple of miles down the road. And then, as I was saying, from there, we get to Half Pipe, distinguishing it from Pipeline, which is just short of 9 miles away from Outward Bound. And that Half Pipe outbound is at 29.3. And actually, I said that wrong. It's just short of 6 miles. So just to get that correct for you all, it's just short of 6 miles away. So not very far down the road. We've got an awesome team there. Those are all search and rescue ski patrol humans. So lots of medical at Half Pipe tucked away in the woods. No crew access there. So that stays the same, but you still have your drop bag pickup there. So there will be drop bags available at Half Pipe.
Excellent. Half Pipe is pretty cut and dry. One I don't see on this list, which I think is a new change as well, is the Mount Elbert water drop. Mini Elbert water drop, I believe that was the name of it. You're right, exactly. And so we will not see that this year. Is that right, Tamira?
You will not see that. It is, we looked at that long and hard, and just access for everybody to get there and maintain it, and just with all the congestion and all the different pieces. And it's literally just short of like 3 miles in each direction from the next aid station. So if you look at your mileage to Twin Lakes, so Twin Lakes outbound is at 37.9, right? So now you're at just shy of about 9 miles into Twin Lakes. And We have taken Mini Elbert out. Want to make sure everybody's aware of it. Make sure you're clear. You will not be looking for water there, that you should be prepared leaving Outward Bound for that 8 or 9 mile run over to Twin Lakes. And then you'll get into Twin Lakes again. Beautiful big party, full service, everything, search and rescue there, everything you could possibly need, including an arch and a lot of amazing volunteers and a lot of music, I'm sure. So a lot of fun things. So just to reframe that, you're leaving from Half Pipe at 29.3 and you're going to Twin Lakes at 37.9. So you can see that that is literally like 8.6 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So just being prepared for that as you move into there. And then Twin Lakes. Now this is where we get into the more interesting pieces in terms of no driving out to Twin Lakes, shuttle only, and that shuttle's coming from Outward Bound. So you've gotten out there in the morning between 5. I'm guessing for most of us, you'll be out there between 5 and 10. You can go all day long. Those shuttles will loop all day long until we get everybody out of there past the cutoff. We'll talk about that cutoff in just a minute because we gave a little time back there. Mm-hmm. Just looking at everything and realizing, hey, we can, because it's a little bit, less overall impact. Your topography is more in your favor in that last portion of the race. So giving a few extra minutes, people can make up some time. But overall, you're going to see those shuttles backing up. You'll see those shuttles looping all day long until that 10:15 cutoff. You will be allotted, everybody will get 4 color-coded wristbands. They'll be color-coded to Twin Lakes. Those will look different than when we get back to May Queen on the inbound. You'll have a different color for May Queen. So you get 4 wristbands. Bring your crews out there. You've got a pacer band as well. That'll be separate, so that's not included in your 4. And you have many hours to get people out there safely and soundly, but no cars.
The pacer band was a question that I saw come up on social media. It's only for that aid station, if I'm correct, right? And so if I were to pick up a pacer at Outward Bound, inbound, they would not be required to have a pacer band, and they could continue to pace with me. So I could switch a pacer on the inbound side of that. Is that correct?
That's correct. And if you think about it this way, you're not allowed to have more than 1 pacer at anywhere on the course until you get to the last mile anyway. So you could really only pick up 1 person there anyway. So you'll get a pacer band for there. You'll get another pacer band that you could use for May Queen as you choose. Because again, same thing. You could only pick up 1 at May Queen. So those aren't necessarily different colors. Those are the same color, but you can only use 1 at Twin Lakes and 1 at May Queen. And then remember, you can pick up a pacer anywhere on course as long as they follow all the rules that are in place for you as the athlete. They get there the same way. You obviously can't drive to certain locations. You can't bike to certain locations, but you can run in just like anybody else. If you choose that you really want to go to half pipe and you want to get dropped and walk in there, you can do that. Make sure that you get your pacer bib. Everybody does need to have a pacer bib. And let's just distinguish the pacer band, wristband, is just what's saying, hey, here's who can get into Twin Lakes. Here's who can get into May Queen in terms of the numbers allotted in terms of the bigger picture. But your actual pacer bibs, if you need an extra one, there are extra waivers and extra pacer bibs at all locations.
Excellent.
Does that help clarify that, Brian?
Totally. That answers the question. The Twin Lakes Fire Station has always been a welcome sight for me personally. I love getting in there in the afternoon. Maybe I struggle a little bit in the evening hours to get in there, but I do like seeing it in the afternoon. It's super fun. It's always a lively time through Twin Lakes. There will be drop bags available if you are solo racing with no pacer, no crew, no nothing. You can use a drop bag there, both in and out of there. Full service aid station, again, inside of the fire station. It kind of goes in one fire door and out the other fire door, and a big spread and a bunch of happy-go-lucky volunteers.
You know who leads that is our previous mayor, and he's Irish. That's got to have something to do with that happy-go-lucky thing. And it is drop bags will be there for you. They will help you find your drop bag. Full service, great spread. It will change over the course of the day. As you need hot food, there will be hot food available, etc. So it will be a full spread there for sure.
Yeah, I think the big difference for those who are not familiar is that it used to be that you would drive there. And one of the advantage right now, beside preventing the impact on Twin Lake, is that it used to be that you would park sometimes really, 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 really far, and you would need to carry all of your gear. And like the tent and everything. So are you suggesting that people come the day before, as you mentioned, to leave their things? Or bring everything in the bus that they would need, because there's so many things that the crew sometimes try to bring. They just don't know. Do I bring an extra pair of shoes? What if it rains? Do I need extra clothing? So how can they manage to carry something that is compact enough, or leave it there somehow?
I've been joking with folks that we're going to put together a carry-on baggage size that fits very much like the airline, for race day. We want to encourage you on Friday to bring everything out there that you want. And we've got the whole town is just being amazing in Twin Lakes. We've got the old schoolhouse. There'll be an ability to check if you've got some things that you are concerned about, you want to keep an eye on. There's a place to be able to check some things. You'll be able to set up everything on Friday, set your space up, set all those things up, stash everything. And then we will be staffing that whole space Friday night, and into Saturday. So our staff will be present from Thursday all the way through. So we encourage you strongly to think about planning ahead, and that what you bring on Saturday on the bus with you can fit in your lap, so that we get the most people on the bus to begin with. This is how we work together at this piece, is that I'm not now trying to bring a tent and a cooler and all those things. Those things we'd like to see go out on Friday, and that's the request that we've put out there, and really appreciate everybody jumping in and helping support that idea. Again, Bob at the general store will have a ton of ice available, extra water, all those things, so that, and there's all kinds of just fun, from the Roadhouse to the Twin Lakes Inn, options for food, snacks. You've got a taco truck, you've got pizza, you've got all kinds of things out there. So please also know that that's a wonderful opportunity to share in that local culture of what's happening in Twin Lakes, and to share some of that love. And they love to see you too in all those places. And it's one of their, that has probably been the biggest discussion from the get-go. We've had a number of discussions between the Forest Service, the race series, Twin Lakes, all the businesses, and various agencies, in really working through this to get to the place where it matches for everybody. Because Twin Lakes 100% loves having you out there so much, and really want to create the party vibe for you and have it be a great experience. But plan to bring your big items on Friday would be great. Saturday, know that something you forgot, it will be there somewhere in that village. Somebody's got it, and they will help you get a hold of it.
Tamira, I got a question about the sport is growing. Leadville has such lore since 1983, right? It's in the record books. It's just famed as one of the top notch 100-milers to do in the country, and that brings the super fan. That brings somebody that's visiting the area, that wants to just witness it and be a spectator in it. And what does that look like for the spectator point of view at Twin Lakes with these new changes?
This has been a constant conversation to some degree, and we are really focused right now on crews and managing that piece. And from our side, the wristband is the key to getting into Twin Lakes, and that's what we're managing and what we're really focused on. So I can't necessarily speak to, and I don't think we know the answer, Brian. This is something that all of us, Twin Lakes included, is how many people are just stopping randomly coming from Aspen? We don't know the answer to that. And, ultimately, our job is going to be to really try to manage the crews and stay focused on that. And we'll have support from multiple agencies. We don't want people parking on 82. We need to get away from that. That's not been safe. And the law enforcement piece of that is they will be out there ensuring that does happen. So please avoid that. Please avoid that help from the sheriff's office. And, ultimately really look at this through the lens of, if I'm wanting to spectate, am I not a crew member? How am I integrating? And maybe get with a family and see if you can get a hold of a wristband, so that this stays in kind of conjunction with the plan that we have laid out. And let's all learn and grow about this together and try to understand better as we move forward. But while we don't want to take away from people just spectating, right now we need to focus on this piece to grow this wisely and safely for everybody. So the race series will stay focused on the crew side of things.
Yeah. I mean, I think the related one to that is that it's been somewhat traditional that there are potential pacer or pacer prospect just hanging out at Twin Lake that are just there to help anyone that would come by. They don't know anyone. So it seems that it would be a little bit more difficult for them to do that, because they won't have the pacer band ahead of time, because they don't even have a runner yet. And
I would say stay tuned on that. We're working on what can we make available around that piece. So stay tuned and know that that might show up in that shuttle crewing Bible in terms of if you're that person, we're working on a pathway. We don't want to take away that cool piece that's been possible. And we have to, we have to figure out, we do have humans out in the world who try to find workarounds to the rules that get laid down. And so how do we find that balance and strike that balance together, and send a consistent message? And I'm not a police person. I didn't choose that job, but at the same time, I'm an equitable person, and I care a lot about how we keep equity around this for everybody and not take away cool things like that. So we're definitely taking that and looking at how we can adjust that. So stay tuned and see what we might come up with around that.
Yeah, I mean, small story is actually the way I met Brian was a little bit like that. And in fact, someone who helped, like Thomas, our friend Thomas, paced me. I didn't know him before. My wife saw me when I came inbound to Twin Lake and was like, "Hey, Simon, I found you a pacer." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." So that's something that is quite unique, and hopefully you guys are able to find a solution. And I know you're aware of these things, and it's good to hear that you're thinking about it.
Here's a question for you guys. So to pick up a pacer at Twin Lakes, what would you want their resume to look like? What's some key things that you would wonder or hope that they have to be your pacer?
Personally, I'm going to go with comedian.
That's a good one. I like it. We'll put that at the top of the list, Brian. I like it. What else?
The ability to self-rescue themselves. I don't want nothing against people that run 5Ks, but it's not a 5K, right? So I want the ability to be able to make themselves at least available to outward bound safely. And then the personal aspects of it, like just be a good human and enjoy the time. And I think there's an understanding or maybe a lack of understanding of the pace that we're actually moving at by the time we get to mile 60. It is sometimes dauntingly slow. And these pacers are just eager to get going, and they don't realize that it is pretty much like a 20-mile walk sometimes to outward bound.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
mean, for
making
me,
some
as long
notes
as I
here.
have the company, right? As long as I have the company, that's all that matters, really. Except, and I said it, I think it was to Mark, like the only rule is don't like break your leg or anything where I would need to be the one supporting you. Anything else doesn't matter. I'm sure we're going to have a nice conversation. You don't need to be a pro runner at that point. You'll be faster than me. And that's it, really. Just a willingness to help. And I think that's what's been fantastic at people at Twin Lake is, it's someone you don't even know. And it's like, I want to help you finish Leadville. Like, I can see you're struggling. You just made the cutoff. Let me help you reach that. And that this willingness to help is really something that is unique with the community at Leadville and the race at Leadville.
I love it, and it's, as we're talking, I'm just thinking through, to our greater audience listening, be prepared for a resume list in some ways that, maybe this is a way that we help our athletes as well as the pacer define, am I the appropriate person for this or not?
Let's move on to some of our state's finest, the state troopers that help us get across Highway 82 before we hit the river crossing. Those guys do an outstanding job every year. I personally thank them, and I hope that you as a participant personally thank them as well. They do a ton for us and get very little credit for any of it. So keep that in mind. We go across the creek. How high is the creek right now? There's probably a lot of water up there, but it's pretty high.
This has been the year of, we are watching some of our culverts really closely. The runoff is record highs from 1940s record high.
Wow.
So we are seeing big runoff. It'll be fine by August, but definitely we're right at the peak right now. And just to back up for a second, Colorado State Patrol is a super huge resource. What you will also see this year is you'll see Colorado Rangers both in Twin Lakes Village and at the Twin Lakes Visitor Center helping us out there. You'll see the Sheriff's Office out on State Highway 82. You're going to see a little more presence, and that's really geared at not authoritarian control as much as how do we help support and just be available and keep everything safe. So you're going to see more resources in that arena as you come through there. And big thank yous to all of them. The Rangers are also not straight up volunteers, but they are law enforcement who offer some of their time at a highly discounted rate. So that's a pretty cool support system that we have and resource we have. So yeah, moving across there into the river, expect by August, we should be okay. But you'll find your rope across there, and please use it. It's helpful. and coming out of there right now, Hope Pass. We have run camp this weekend. It is still not open. That area is not open due to the fire. So we will be seeing that open up. In theory, right now they're shooting for July 15th. We'll see if that's accurate. One piece I'd like to put out to the world: whether you're a mountain biker or a runner, please help us by staying out of that area right now. That's really helpful. I know we're all desperate and anxious to see those parts and train in those parts, but the part that we can play and be a part of kind of the cleanup and the control of this fire is to stay out of there and make way for these resources that are doing amazing work and need free access in and out as quickly as possible at this time. So please help us with that part. And then by August, Hope Pass will be in beautiful shape. It's gorgeous up here right now, and we fully expect that that'll be beautiful. But it is still under snow right now anyway, just in case anybody was wondering. So you can feel good about the fact that you can't be up there because you couldn't get very far anyway.
Tamara, what is the just a side note? If we're keeping people out of there for training runs for the mountain bike, I know the mountain bike is on the other side of the lake, or the lower end of the lake, and the run is on Hope Pass. What are some alternatives if I'm coming up to Leadville? I'm bringing my bike, I'm bringing my running shoes. What are some alternatives that I can do that are open or will be more accessible to veer us off of those trails?
Yeah, I would say please come check out the east side. If you want, go on to LeadvilleRaceSeries.com, hit the Silver Rush webpage, look at the Silver Rush 50 course, and modify some of that. There's some great things in there that will still get you high alpine, get you to 12,000 and above, get you a very similar kind of topography and training environment, and it's also stunning. So we'd love to see a training over there this year for the next month or so, at least next 6 weeks until we get through this phase. And then things will open back up, and we'll make sure to make that notable. But check that out on the website. That's a great tool and a great course. And you don't necessarily have to do it all, but you can look at some of the areas that it covers and pick what fits for you. But it's great stuff on the east side.
That's awesome. I hope everyone uses that as a resource to kind of give those safety guys, all the fire guys, and all that personnel some space over there. After the creek
Awesome.
we cross, we go up Hope Pass, and it's steep, guys. I know you might not be able to see it this year if you haven't seen it already, but that's okay. You'll see it, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. We get up to the lake and Hopeless Aid Station. It's, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say it's 3/4 service aid station, right? Because they got to get these supplies in there somehow, right? So maybe it's not like the full service. It doesn't have everything you've ever wanted in life, but it's got enough to get by. Those guys are out there, I believe, by Llama. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe they come out like 2 or 3 days ahead of time. They set up this big base camp. They bring in all their supplies by Llama, and those guys are committed. I believe it's been the last couple of years a cross country team, because I remember these young high school participants running down at me and asking me what I needed. They were so eager to help us out. So that's really exciting.
So Hope Pass is at 43.5 miles, and the llamas do take all the gear up. The team goes up. They're packing all their gear on Tuesday of race week and heading up by Wednesday, Thursday, getting stationed up there. They are pretty full service, I will tell you. These guys work hard to get you. There'll be noodles, there'll be potatoes, there'll be a lot of the normal things. It won't be necessarily 100% the same menu as all the other aid stations. To your point, Brian, they do have to get it all up there by Llama. But they're pretty amazing, and they certainly bring a flare of energy that helps, I think, everybody. I personally think the llamas in general just bring a little bit of energy to everybody when they get up there and get to see those guys. And yeah, we've got an awesome aid station crew up there. You're thinking of Winfield, where our cross-country runners will be, and we can talk about that in just a second. The last couple of years, we've had the CMC, Colorado Mountain College cross-country team has been running that aid station, which we're super stoked to have happening. But yeah, Hope Pass, 43.5 miles on the outbound. You're not going to find your drop bag there, but you will just over the hill at the 50-mile turnaround at Winfield. Any questions about Hope beyond that, or are we good to jump to?
No, but I would really want to add, like, the Hopeless Aid Station. It's not as big as the others, but you have warm food, which is probably the most important, especially on the way back when sometimes you might hit a thunderstorm and you might be soaked, you might be wet, you might be cold, and that really hits the spot. When you're on the way up, you're just really hot and sweaty, and you're just happy to drink something cold. But on the way down, the ramen noodle and these things, they're there. And yeah, you won't have like a 5 course dinner or anything like that. But for me, that's exactly what I need. And then you can just sprint all your way to Twin Lake, which is like an hour and a half max.
One last point I believe that just needs to be mentioned is that if you haven't seen Hope Pass before, Hopeless Aid Station is just short of the summit on the outbound. So you're not at the top yet. You still have a little more climbing to go before you saddle over and then make the descent down towards Winfield. So just as a point of reference, you hit the bottom of Sheep Gulch or near the bottom of Sheep Gulch before you make a right-hand turn onto the Colorado Trail. And I believe it's about 2.5 miles-ish to Winfield.
Yep.
And it's a rolling trail. It's really nice. It's improved, and it's been improved over the years. And it's really runnable, although it's late in the race or fairly late in the race.
It would be runnable.
Yeah,
it would be runnable.
It is, depending on how you're feeling at that point, it would be runnable. And, just a reminder, Winfield is an old mining town, one of our oldest in the state. And there are residents who live up there. So a part of this whole collaborative piece is not just managing the Hope Pass Trail and that trail into Winfield, but also that whole environment up there. So as we move Pacers out, it also kind of decreased some of the impact in that area, which was huge as well. But you come into Winfield, you got the cross country team, you're at mile 50, drop bags there. If you are choosing that is the end of your way, that is a place where you'll be able to pick up a bus out, and the bus will take you to Twin Lakes. If you have met your summit challenge for this event, that is an option that's available there. Don't hang out there too long. That's a bottom line. You can get a little too comfortable, and then it gets harder and harder to go. So get warm, get, whatever you need, but then also keep moving. That's a critical component of that aid station, because it sure can be nice to see everybody, knowing that dauntingly what's ahead of you is to go back up that hill. But once you're back up to Hope Pass, as Simon's alluded to, then you've got, for the most part, a nice downhill, depending on how you like downhills, back into Twin Lakes. So don't get hung up there. Know that you can get your drop bag. You got a full service aid station there, bathrooms, all the things up there, and a beautiful team to take care of you. And then if you should decide that is the end of it for you, there is a ride out of there this year. We expect to have shuttles actually staged there at 1:00 p.m. So ready to start to take people. We've been working to refine this for a few years now, and we're hoping this is the year that we are really dialing that into a premium kind of response time. And those shuttles, reminder, will go to Twin Lakes, and you can pick up a shuttle from there back to Outward Bound or back to Leadville.
If you need to catch your breath on Hope Pass in either direction, take that moment to look around. It is spectacular back there. I mean, just the views on both sides are just amazing. It's one of my favorite runs to do. Outside of the race or during the race, it doesn't really matter. During the race, I'm hopefully not going to stop and look around, but I've been there before. But if you haven't, you should take a minute and look around and check out the sights. At least take it in and absorb it. It's the middle of the day. It hasn't gotten dark yet. It should be mid afternoon-ish time to late afternoon. So great scenery, great sun views of everything. The valley is just spectacular. Right across from you at Hope Pass is just a handful of 14ers that are on the map, and so check those out as well. You double back over, you make your way back into Twin Lakes. I believe the same rules apply. Still no crew or limited crew that has shuttled there with their wristbands on. Still your pacer that you could pick up with their pacer band and now their pacer bib. What other changes do we have here, Tamira?
The only other significant change, which hopefully is in your favor, is that cutoff has been moved to 10:15 p.m. as opposed to 10:00 p.m. So you've got a 15-minute window in there to help give you just a little bit more time if you're getting a little beat up on that downhill to get in there, and then from there to kind of keep moving. We do want to see you guys get across that timing mat. We don't want you to hang out there very long at all. We have search and rescue that's going to pick up right behind you. So this is not a, hey, I raced across the mat, now I hang out for 30 minutes. This is an absolutely must keep moving. You'll come across that timing mat, and there'll be space for a few of our, as we get closer to that cutoff time, there'll be space for a few of our crews and families to be in there past the timing mat to get you the things you need. We don't want you doubling back, going back to the cruise. So we're going to work hard with you on that piece. But other than that, it's mile 62 inbound. And, your next big aid station is then at Half Pipe at mile 70. So you got about 8 miles to go that gets you over to Half Pipe. And the idea here is truly keep moving. Get a few things, get dry socks on, get whatever you need there, get a little bit of food in you, but then keep moving. That's critical. And we're going to want to see that, but you also need to do that just to keep your body from saying, hey, I'd like to go to sleep now. So keep moving at that point. And then that'll send you over to Half Pipe, back where you've already been, inbound there. And again, inbound, we're talking about everything from the turnaround at Winfield back to Leadville. No big changes there. At Half Pipe, obviously, you've already gotten through all those. That puts us back at Outward Bound. And Outward Bound, inbound is now mile 76.9. And you are essentially back to the big party. There will be, before you get there, on Pipeline, Sterling is the master of parties. I'm sure he doesn't start it himself. Haha. But Sterling is our executive director of the Cloud City Wheelers, who in large part have a large hand in everything that goes on with our trails. Whether it is, he was just up helping cut a few trees down that were blocking the path for the mountain bike camp. He'll be up doing the same thing on Hope Pass, but they also help maintain trails that you're on. So Cloud City Wheelers is a local nonprofit trail building, trail maintenance organization, put on some pretty cool things, but a big thank you to them. I just pull that out. And he happens to own land on the pipeline. So you will always see a pretty good sized party happening by the time you come back inbound on the pipeline. A few miles out from Outward Bound, and Outward Bound again is at 76.9. Now you're back, you've got lots of humans around, and another opportunity to kind of get some warm things in you. There's nothing major here. And that's going to bring us, I'm going to kind of keep moving here, if that's okay, Brian.
Great. Perfect.
into the May Queen. And the May Queen now, what we want you to know is that at 5:00 p.m. on Saturday, August 17th, race day, you are able to get into May Queen, single car, 4 wristbands for that color-coded to May Queen, and 1 pacer bib or 1 pacer wristband to get in there. So at 5:00 p.m. on race day, you can start to drive out there. It will be one direction. That will be those rangers out there helping us manage that. So please do go in at the dam. Don't try to go in the back way and sneak in there. We don't want traffic going the opposite direction. This really makes it unsafe for our emergency services. And this is something that we learned because of how tight that is in there. Last year, we started to make some changes around that. And then this year, we obviously pulled crewing out in the morning. And now we'll stick with the one direction traffic in the afternoon from 5:00 all the way through to the next morning. You'll be able to get out there, crew your humans. We know this is a critical component of the race. Those last few miles are going to be the ones that get you over that red carpet, and you all being able to be at that aid station is critical. So we want you to have access. 5:00 p.m. I think I've said it enough times now, but know that you can get out there and head it in, and you should be able to take care of your humans and get them well on their way and into that last 13 miles back home.
If you're not familiar with it, the Turquoise Lake Road, Tamara's explaining that you should go over the dam first, which is the clockwise direction. So you're going to be going left to right over the lake. So you're going to at any of the forks, you're going to be trying to go to the left, and you should be going over the dam before you make it anywhere near the aid station. If you're getting onto a windy mountain pass road, you're probably going the wrong direction.
That's correct, and you will stay on pavement. Hagerman Pass does go up to the left, but good point. It is clockwise. It is County Road 4 that leads into Turquoise Lake Road, and that puts you at the dam. You will have law enforcement support there, Colorado Rangers, making sure that you are going the right direction and helping you get through.
May Queen is 87.4 miles. Gosh, you could smell the barn right now. What about the finish line? Any changes at the finish line? I don't think there are.
No changes at the finish line. Just Ken and Mary Lee there, ready to give you a hug and a buckle and get you across that line. It's still at 100 miles. We didn't change that. So it's all good on that side of things. And we are really looking forward to seeing you on both the start and the finish line, everybody. And those last 13 miles, that is definitely, can be hard ones, and having your pacers there to help you with that can be a huge benefit and key to getting the job done.
I know Tamara has mentioned it a bunch of times, but go to the website. I have the race packet printed off here if you're watching this. And it has links. Of course, my paper copy doesn't have the link because it's not that smart yet. But go to the website. It has links for each of the aid stations. It probably is going to have, just like she had mentioned, all the information on what you can do at those aid stations, or how you should approach those aid stations and what they look like, and all kinds of stuff like that. So go to the website, go to the website, go to the website. I think she said it a bunch of times, and I will repeat it for you.
And please do read your athlete guide front and back and forward a few times, and really digest that. Get your crews to read it with you. Yep. We are adhering strongly to that, and we thank you so much for all your support to help us do the very best we all can together in executing these changes and making it a better experience for everybody.
Tamara, I want to thank you for your time and for walking us through the course. We wish you the best of success this season. I will personally see you. I'll be up in the area for all of the race series events. I won't be participating in all of them, but I'll be up there cheering and supporting, and maybe I'll see if I could jump on the volunteer list as well.
Awesome. We welcome it. The run currently is waitlist only. I think the mountain bike might be as well by now. Just a huge shout out to all our volunteers. We could not make this all happen without the nearly 1,000 volunteers who come support all the events over the summer. So big shout out to them. And thank you guys for having me on the show. It's great to be here to answer questions and try to help get the word out as much as we can. So thank you so much for the invite, and great to have time with you both.
Great, thanks. I'm Simon, and that's Brian.
We'd be thrilled to connect with you beyond our show.
For all of your endurance coaching requirement, you can reach out to Coach Brian at altitudeendurancecoaching.com.
To explore more of Simon's content, visit Running with Simon on YouTube.
Don't forget to rate, like, and share our content regularly.
Your support means a lot to us. Thanks.